under the sun on planet Earth that you don't know. And so we pray, Father, that you stretch your hand upon this nation, that you change the mindset and character of people, because we have so many institutions in this country put together with people selected from different walks of life to fight corruption. But corruption in this country has come to stay. Why? This is a question as we actually celebrate those who are honest. During this session, we know that this is a time for recognizing those people of integrity. It takes courage, my father. It takes hard work. It takes integrity to be recognized in a country like Uganda. And so we thank you, Father, and we pray that you usher in a new era where integrity is exercised. And all of us will be able to say the words of the famous great President of America, George Washington, when he said one time that the love of my country will be the luring influence of my character. Father, change our character to be able to defeat corruption. In the name of the Almighty God, the creator of the universe, I have prayed.
Amen. Thank you very much, Reverend Canon Aaron Meshiga, for that powerful prayer that also in some way was another powerful speech. Integrity is, in my view, at the center of progress, and the lack of integrity can destroy a nation. And year after year, when you get these Transparency International reports, we find our country at the doldrums of these countries performing so poorly when it comes to integrity. So I've been asking myself, why should a country that is built on godly foundation with a motto for God and my country be this so corrupt? Why should a city with the highest per capita concentration of churches be this corrupt? Why should a country with the most beautiful name on the continent, the Pearl of Africa, be defiled by corruption? I think we need to shed a light on each one of us, shed a light on ourselves, because probably all of us have dirt on our shoulders and we need to speak it out. We have not elected our leaders using merit. We have sold our vote and lost the right to question our leaders. In fact, we have fallen short of the glory. But among you, men and women seated here, are those who have shown us that their integrity is so precious and there's not enough money anywhere in the world to buy it. You have honored your country. You have served with distinction. You have shown us that you are clean. Because of people like you, Uganda, in my view, we have hope that we are going to fight this battle and we shall win. And as we go to deliberate today, I think we should ask ourselves an individual question. What can I do where I am? Maybe take a vow. I should use my position, my profession, and my passion to fight. Sometimes we can fight amongst ourselves in our political deliberation, and I can hear people like the Honorable Tamaguzi, Honorable Akena. It's not that because you hate, but I think it's because you love your country more. And for people like you and many others here, let us honor our country. Let us honor the Ugandan uniform, be it prison, UPDF, or military. Let us honor those officers. Because when we do that, Uganda will be better. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to invite the first speaker to us, and that is going to be Mr. Peter Wandera, who is from Transparency International Uganda. Let's invite him, welcome him on stage with a round of applause.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Our guest of honor, representatives from the various government ministries and departments and agencies, our colleagues from the civil society sector, our representatives from the development partners, specifically DGF, around, colleagues from the media fraternity, board members, management and staff of the partner organizations who have organized this function today, members of parliament here present, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed, you're all welcome. I come with greetings from Transparency International Uganda, and on behalf of the partners, that's ACtionAid Uganda, ACtionAid International Uganda, and Corruption Coalition Uganda and Transparency International, I welcome you all to this year's Integrity and Public Service Awards. Ladies and gentlemen, as you are all aware, we are observing the International Anti-Corruption Week that runs from 2nd to 9th December. During this week, we reflect on what has been done and what has been achieved during the year in the fight against corruption. The week gives us an opportunity to come up with new action plans, to come up with new strategies, and also it gives us opportunity to recognize outstanding performances by individuals and institutions in our fight against corruption. It's in this spirit that we come together for today's event, the Integrity and Public Service Awards, to award persons and institutions that have not only been outstanding and exemplary performers, but have also done this with integrity. Ladies and gentlemen, as Transparency International, we do have awards, but at a higher global level. It is against this background that Transparency International Uganda is pleased to join ACtionAid International Uganda and Anti-Corruption Coalitions to have similar awards, albeit at a smaller scale in Uganda. As Transparency International Uganda, we look forward and work towards seeing these awards becoming a much anticipated national event that everyone shall look out for as an avenue that shall go a long way in the contribution to the fight against corruption. Ladies and gentlemen, as you may be aware, this is not the first time. I think this is the third or fourth year that we're having these awards, but we should look at making them bigger and greater and impactful so that they do make a difference. Ladies and gentlemen, when we speak about integrity, there are some attributes that come to my mind that I would like to share with you. The first one, integrity is qualitative. It is not how much you do, it's not how much you accumulate, it's not how many accolades you get, it's how you have got all this. It's more of quality, it's not about quality. It's not about quantity, it's more about quality. Persons with integrity always ensure that whatever they do it with quality. They don't go after quantity. The second attribute that comes to mind is consistency. Someone once said that integrity is doing the right thing even when no one is watching. Persons of integrity always do the right thing regardless of who is or not watching. All of us have experienced cases or seen acts of honesty and kindness just to hoodwink the public eye. But when no one is watching, when the lights are turned off, then that is when true colors are exhibited. Acts of dishonesty come out. Unfortunately, such acts in the long run are revealed when luck runs out. So, ladies and gentlemen, person of integrity is always consistent. Be there an audience, be it in darkness, light, he always does the right thing. Another attribute is integrity is value-based. Recently, someone commented that Uganda as a country does not have any values, which I think is a wrong statement. Ugandans have values drawn from their social background, religious background, cultural background. values like honesty, compassion, faithfulness, and patience, and other values passed down to us. However, the problem is that we do not uphold and we do not cherish these values. Instead, we follow norms that we acquire depending on the environment and the trends of the times. The norms exhibited in society today include cheating, lying, unfaithfulness, which unfortunately are quickly replacing our values. Persons of integrity stick to their values even when the rest of the society are taking up what is normal or trendy. Another attribute that comes to my mind is principles. We live in an environment with a lot of pressure from peers, pressure from society, and even family. Many people succumb to these pressures. A person with integrity always acts on principle despite whatever pressure exerted on him or her. Ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, these are some of the attributes that we should look out for when we speak of integrity. There are, of course, many more, but these are some that I'd wanted to share with you today. With these few words, you are all once again welcome, and thanks for listening to me, for God and my country.
Another round of applause for Mr. Peter Wandera. Thank you very much, sir, for your words, and I could just speak a few things he said and maybe I could repeat them for you. That values we are lacking values, and I think we don't have a set of values that we believe in as a country to say this is where we stand. Probably we should also think about and ponder about the words of values, because it appears we seem to have lost the battle right from our homes. And if we go back into values, probably we can do much better. The English language is full of many words when they want to talk about corruption. I can hear misallocation of resources, misappropriation of resources, embezzlement, abuse of office, the integrity deficit. But it is theft. It is just stealing. We can wrap it in many words, but it's stealing at an industrial scale. And it's got to stop. Ladies and gentlemen, may I invite from Anti-Corruption Coalition Uganda, the Executive Director, Madam Sisi Kagaba. All right, I think we'll go to the next speaker available, and that is going to be the Managing Director of Africa Broadcasting Uganda, my boss, Mr. Johnson Omolo. Ladies and gentlemen, I will honor you, I will not keep you waiting, so I'll go to the next if you allow me. Okay, thank you very much. We have the country director of ACtionAid International Uganda, Mr. Javier Ejoy. Please, let's welcome him with a round of applause.
Thank you, Kamara. I like the way you pronounce that name. The chief guest for tonight's function, the National Integrity Award, distinguished nominees for this year's award, all our distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. My name is Xavier Joy. Allow me to give some remarks on this day that we mark with excitement. We welcome all of you to this function. It's been a long coming. From wherever you're coming from, from the different parts of this country. We are very excited to have you here, whether you are from Karamoja, from Akawungeezi, or from Bugisu, or from Bunyoro, whatever part of the country you're coming from. We are very excited to have you here. It's a privilege and an honor for us to host you and to be with you in this important function. And as Patrick said, integrity is something that really, really matters. It can break or make a nation, a society, or even an individual. So it's with that in mind that we came together as organizations as part of our fight against corruption in this country to think through the other side of the fight against corruption, to recognize women and men who have served this nation in public office with distinction and have valued integrity and placed it before their selfish interests. We think that that is an important thing for us to do as a nation. However, I want to say that in our mind, as we organized this event, we thought about some important things. And I will just lay one of them here. That for us to be effective in our fight against corruption and promotion of integrity, we need to provide a platform for citizens of this country. We need to move beyond officialdom, beyond institutions. And there are many institutions in Uganda today, including my own, which is a non-governmental organization established and contributing towards the fight against corruption. But we need to go beyond those institutions. We need to put the fight against corruption in the hands of citizens. Because if corruption is taking place in public domain, it affects citizens. So we cannot keep citizens on the sidelines if we want to fight corruption. The participation of citizens of all persuasions across the country, as I said, from Acholi to Buganda, from Bugisu to Bunyoro, from Karamoja to Akawungeezi, and across this country is vital to make significant inroads against corruption. Citizens need to be at the center of the fight against corruption. It's not about me, it's about the expectations of citizens of integrity in this nation. So today, while we are expectant to see who walks away recognized as the best among the nominees, therefore a winner from this function, I want to announce to you that all citizens, those of you seated in this room, and those of us who are watching us by television across this country, you are winners. I'll tell you why. When we ventured into this process, Ugandans from all walks of life across this country participated. And for us, citizen participation is key. They participated in nominating individuals that they know about, that they think have served this nation in public office with integrity and dignity. That participation, we do not take it for granted. For us, that is where the winners are. That citizens are taking the fight against corruption and the promotion of integrity in their hands and saying, we recognize that individual who is serving in that office. That is something that we tend to ignore or take for granted in our fight against corruption. And so we think that one key thing coming out of this process for us is to place that in the hands of citizens. And so as ACtionAid and the other partner organizations, Anti-Corruption Coalition Uganda and Transparency International, we provided that platform. We provided that platform for citizens to participate. And for us, this is key. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say that in that process of participation, these three institutions that I mentioned partnered with a number of other institutions across this country. Regional civil society networks across the country, but also radio stations and media houses across this nation. I want to say that it was not possible for all of us, even the three organizations, to reach in every part of this country, but together with institutions across this nation, we were able to reach. We will have a time for special mention and recognition of those organizations that partnered with us in this process, because for us, that is important. We do not take that for granted. I also want to say that as we did this work, we worked collaboratively with the government of Uganda institutions, such as the Directorate of Ethics and Integrity and the Inspectorate of Government, among others. The Integrity Award process draws cumulative lessons from processes that we started as the three participating organizations 4 years ago, which hitherto was limited to specific regions. We did one for Acholi, we did for Teso, and we did for West Nile, Bunyoro, and others. This year, however, we stepped that up. We felt that we had drawn enough lessons from the small processes that we had managed in the 3 years, and we felt that this should be scaled up at a national level. And so as I speak today, the nomination process for this award went to every sub-region of this country. All 14 of them that we have participated in this process. At least they were engaged in this process. The process itself goes through 4 stages. I just want to highlight that because I know there are a lot of questions in mind. What did it involve and so on? So there are 4 processes that went through this. There's an initial nomination process that happens. And this initial nomination process, we had points where in the participating organizations in all the 14 sub-regions, where you can pick a nomination form. It's a very simple form, 1-pager, where you're able to give the details, contact details, address, and workplace, and so on of the person you want to nominate. But you also have to give a testimonial, a brief description of why you think this person deserves to be nominated for that position. Now, there are 3 simple criteria that we set up to be able to nominate persons. So you score the person, you say, you know, this person did a specific act of integrity, and you're able to mention that specific act, or to say that there's actually a pattern of acts of integrity, or that in public service this person is recognized. So based on that, you have to submit a complete form, but this form has to be also, there has to be consent, that this person has consented to participate in this process, because we want to look further than just the information submitted. So that was the initial process. Through that initial process, and then the participating organizations in the 14 sub-regions will work with the media houses in those sub-regions to do an initial screening of the tens or hundreds of nominees that have come through, to be able to select from eligibility who qualifies, and identify, narrow that to three nominees. But those 3, also important to note here is that the citizen participation is also enhanced, not only through nominations, but through the public media engagements. I must say that we were pleasantly surprised by the level of participation and feedback that we got from across this country. And I must add that for us, it was really a vote of confidence that citizens are interested in taking their role in promoting integrity in this country, and we should not deny them that right. The third phase of this is that the 3 each from sub-regions that participated and managed to nominate will be sent to the national level, where we have established a 3-person vetting committee that will comb through the information submitted, seek additional references and background checks, and then are able to rate these candidates that have come through. And the final thing is that there's a selection process based on that analysis, that the top 5 will be selected and presented later on here. And I want to say that the members of the vetting committee are here. We will introduce them at the appropriate time, and you will know who they are. And I can say that they are men and women of distinction in this country. The other thing I want to point out is that NGOs, I work for an NGO, ACtionAid, and there are many others out there, play a key role in the fight against corruption, which among others includes creating awareness on the scourge of corruption. We also do naming and shaming, just so you know. It's not just about the National Integrity Awards. We publish things to do with how corruption has eaten this nation and the levels of fraud that has gone through this country. We also advocate for government to put in place and implement good laws for fighting corruption and for promoting integrity. And therefore, we also, as I said, provide a platform for citizens to effectively engage in the fight against corruption and promoting accountability. Our approach, I want to add, and contribution to the fight against corruption is unique and perhaps different from what other stakeholders are engaged in. Sometimes these roles that we play make certain sections of stakeholders uncomfortable with civil society. So when you hear, ladies and gentlemen, that civil society being accused of promoting subversive activities or money laundering or agents of foreign interest and so on and so forth, sometimes it is because of these hard messages that we talk about in the fight against corruption. And therefore you should know that our efforts in the fight against corruption is beginning to bite, and you need to be aware of that. The other thing I want to put here is that I want to, in a special way, thank everyone who contributed to this function. From ACtionAid International Uganda, the staff worked hard, late into the night. Transparency International, the Nation Media Group, and more than a dozen of civil society networks across this country. We have done everything that we can within our means to ensure that this activity is done well and stands by its name, integrity, in Uganda. However, we also believe that we can still do better, and there are a number of challenges and shortcomings that we encountered through this process that we've learned from, and these shortcomings and challenges are in no way any match for the achievements that we are here to gather to celebrate today. Ladies and gentlemen, as I move to the conclusion, I want to tell you a story about a German theologian. His name was Karl Jaspers. Karl Jaspers was reflecting on Germany after World War II. After over 7 million Germans were killed, largely during the war, he reflected and said, who is responsible? Who is guilty for the death, for the Holocaust and the death of 7 million Germans? And his conclusion, I say it here today because it bears a mark on promoting integrity and fighting corruption in Uganda today. He said there are 4 categories of guilt that Germans had to face. The first, he said, was criminal guilt, that the person who took a gun and killed is criminally liable and can be prosecuted and locked up or punished according to the law. That's one. But two, he also said there is political guilt. Political guilt means that people who have responsibility and authority given to them by citizens, that they could have done something to stop the slaughter of 7 million Germans. They didn't. Politically, they are guilty. And then he says there is moral guilt. He said citizens of Germany who stood by as 7 million Germans were being killed and admired or praised or whatever they did, they are also guilty, morally guilty. And finally is what he called, for as I said, he was a theologian, what he called a metaphysical guilt. He says whatever you do as a human being, you have a relationship with your creator, whoever that creator is, that you will have to account one day, and therefore you are metaphysically guilty for the killing of Germans during the World War. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to present to you here that all of us in this room, in this category, some of us will have to take criminal responsibility or guilt if we do not engage seriously in the fight against corruption and take a position. If we do not take political responsibility, we will be politically guilty. And in this nation, there are people who are politically guilty of corruption. They might not be the ones who stole the money, but they are in a position where they have guilt. And three, moral guilt. This is where probably most of us fall. That you stand by and admire and praise and give a platform for the corrupt, and you are morally guilty. Or finally, metaphysical guilt, where your relationship with your creator matters at some point. So where do you fall, Ugandans? I want to thank the Democratic Governance Facility for supporting ACtionAid and other partners to ensure that we run this activity and that sees the light of day. But I also want to give special thanks to members of the vetting committee. As I said, their names and the profiles will be announced later on. Thank you very much. You're most welcome to this event.
Another round of applause to Javier. And you know, when you quoted that German national who spoke after the Second World War, I just thought about the moral guilt. And I'm thinking maybe all of us, for sure, have fallen short of the glory. We haven't. Okay, that is why there are some people here who are going to be awarded, and that is why we have a silver lining on a dark cloud. Because amongst us are people who have not fallen short, and for that matter, we have hope. But think about it, that the world is not bad because there are people who kill, who maim, who abuse. But also, it is bad because there are those of us who want to stand by and watch and let it happen. And for those in public service, sometimes I wonder whether we have a public service college that maybe is honing the skills of our public service employees in getting into that jobs, but also in giving them values. And for those who are political leaders, how many times for the young ones have we gone to people who stand up in this country, the elders like the Honorable Augustine Ruzindana there, the elders like Dr. Miriam Matembe, and maybe you get an hour or 30 minutes with them and let them groom you, because sometimes we need some grooming. I know, Honorable Akena, you are groomed at the foot of the real master, your father. But how about others? Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to invite from Anti-Corruption Coalition Uganda, Madam Sisi Kagaba.
All right. Good afternoon. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. Oh, well, that's better. One of the things that we know is lacking today are issues of integrity. It's one of those ingredients that is still challenging when it comes to issues of corruption in our country. And today, one of the initiatives that ACtionAid, together with Transparency International, have decided to do is to identify those that have stood the test of time. And they've actually agreed to be tested, because I know the process will actually be, people will be taken through the process of how some of these individuals were nominated. And we also try, in most cases, we tend to be on the other side, where we tend to bash the government or people in public service, but we believe that there are times where we need to come out and recognize and appreciate those that are in government or those that have been in public service that have stood the test of time. And with today's awards, it's obviously possible that there are people who are still there who have integrity. And we still believe that the struggle has not been lost. With people like this, we believe that wherever they're going to go, they're going to be ambassadors, and they'll continue to shine. And we believe that those are people that we should be able to look up to ensure that we're able to, look at what they're doing to help us improve. I think for me, with those few words, I just want to thank you for sparing your time, for being part and parcel of this process, and for the committee and for all those that participated in this process. We're very appreciative, and especially for those that are going to be awarded today. What I have to say is that the struggle continues, and we believe that eventual levels of corruption can be mitigated in our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Cisse. And I've been questioning myself sometimes, when people become corrupt, is it because of poverty? Is it because they want to cut lines because of bureaucracy? Or is it just sheer greed? I do not know. Perhaps you know, and we're going to have some deliberations and a plenary session. Maybe you'll be able to answer those kind of questions. May I now invite the head of the Democratic Governance Facility in Uganda, Mr. Wayne Stoffers.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed, good afternoon. On behalf of the Democratic Governance Facility, DGF, I would like to thank ACtionAid Uganda, Transparency International Uganda, and the Anti-Corruption Coalition Uganda for organizing this National Integrity Awards ceremony. This year's event, organized under the theme, Together We Are United Against Corruption, falls under the annual Anti-Corruption Week and is premised on the need to recognize the courage and determination of the general public, civil society and civil servants in promoting integrity in public services, tackling corruption and promoting accountable governance in Uganda. Ladies and gentlemen, you may have come across which is DGF's, positive, impactful stories through our website and social media. Or you may have recently read hysterical stories about DGF in some tabloids and informal media streams. For those of you who are not familiar with the DGF, kindly allow me to properly introduce ourselves. The Democratic Governance Facility is a multi-donor funding facility funded and governed by 7 European development partners: Austria, Denmark, the European Union, Ireland, the Netherlands, Norway and Sweden. After a successful extended first phase of 6.5 years, the DGF is currently in the second year of its second program, which is planned to run for in total 5 years. The main objective of the Democratic Governance Facility is to strengthen democratization, improve the protection of human rights, increase access to justice, and encourage peaceful coexistence and improved accountability in Uganda. The program is implemented under a bilateral agreement between the governments of Uganda and Denmark, with Denmark being the legal entity of the facility and is fully in line with the priorities of the government of Uganda as formulated in the Constitution of the Republic, the Vision 2040, and the respective national development plans. To date, the DGF has established partnerships with about 75 state and non-state institutions, and I'm pleased to note that it is some of the DGF-supported partners, such as ACtionAid International Uganda, ACU, Transparency International Uganda, and others that have organized this National Integrity Award event and many other anti-corruption week activities in different parts of Uganda. In addition to working with civil society partners, DGF also works with state actors like Parliament, the Ministry of Internal Affairs, Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development, the Ugandan Human Rights Commission, the Justice Centers Uganda, and several district local governments. And in addition, we are proud to announce that we are working on a partnership with the Inspector of Government. As democratic governance is all about relationships between citizens and the state, the DGF makes it a point to establish partnerships with both state and non-state partners and to try to make them collaborate to the extent possible. And I'm pleased to see the fair representation of both actors here today. As DGF, we are cognizant of government's efforts to build a Uganda that every citizen can be proud of. Such efforts have included, amongst others, putting in place the necessary legal and policy framework for addressing the problem of accountability in general and corruption in particular, establishing of accountability institutions and mechanisms, setting up of the anti-corruption court, enacting of anti-corruption laws and leadership code are some of the measures government has taken to address corruption and promote accountability in the public sector. However, government cannot do it alone. There still remain many challenges, which makes it difficult for government to fulfill its cardinal role of providing adequate and high-quality services to the citizens. These challenges include, amongst others, increasing the level of citizens' involvement in decision-making, enhancing accountability on part of duty bearers to the people they lead, and increasing the pace of democratization of development. Many civil society organizations are willing and capable of collaborating with government to address these challenges, and it is for this reason that the DGF partners with both state and non-state organizations for the benefit of the people of Uganda. And in this regard, it is hoped that the CSOs that for one reason or another have not yet completed the verification exercise will still get an opportunity to do so and continue their good work. DGF recognizes and attaches high premium to the importance of state accountability to its citizens if sustainable national development is to be attained. It is within this context, that as part of our program, we contribute to the fight against corruption through empowering communities to advocate for their rights and demand for accountability from their leaders, using formal and informal but legally established fora. As such, part of our supported work on anti-corruption is crafted to educate citizens through different strategies. Some of the implementing partners mentioned earlier and others are facilitating citizens' engagement with their leaders through organizing localized and national level campaigns, using constructive approaches and strategies such as forum theaters, anti-corruption caravans, petitions and integrity awards, among other strategies to build support and detest against corruption at all levels. It is such citizens-led campaigns that potentially win public support, encourage their involvement and garner their commitment to act to curb the corruption vice. We recognize the decision of the national and international community to designate a whole week in a calendar year, if not more, for anti-corruption activities such as this Integrity Award ceremony, which demonstrates how serious the problem of corruption is. Besides commemorating the International Anti-Corruption Week annually, however, there is need for stronger action at the subnational and national levels, involving all sections of society throughout the year. Therefore, I call upon all Ugandans to play their civic responsibility to fight and report corruption, monitor expenditures of public servants and civil society leaders, and hold their leaders accountable for improved service delivery for the betterment of all Ugandans. At the same time, I reiterate DGF's commitment to continue partnering with the government of Uganda and with civil society organizations to support initiatives that are aimed at realizing a corrupt-free society, especially for the poor, vulnerable and marginalized Ugandans. DGF commends ACtionAid International, Transparency International, ACU, the IG and all other partners here today for coming up with the Integrity Awards event, which is one of the ways of creating awareness on the need for people to pursue lives of integrity. Through this participatory process, we are hoping that the organizers and public at large are able to identify individuals that inspire and challenge the citizenry to not only pursue a lifestyle of integrity, but also to lead an exemplary life free of fraud and corruption. The Integrity Awards serve many objectives, including recognized personalities who have exhibited a high degree of integrity in public service and private sector, raising public awareness on the importance of upholding integrity in both public and private sector, promoting integrity and common decency as a virtue in society, and creating a precedence of awarding champions of integrity. The people of Uganda, on whose behalf all of us hold our different offices and responsibilities, including public servants, political leaders and civil society development practitioners, have entrusted us with the responsibility to plan for and provide them with adequate and quality services and the resources to do so, as well as give them responsive and accountable leadership. It takes a character of high integrity to achieve this, and it is not easy. It is therefore that today we publicly recognize and reward these women and men of integrity. I congratulate all awardees for having been nominated for this prestigious award. It is hoped that the winners of these awards will remain exemplary and a source of inspiration to the public, echoing a common voice of integrity. As DGF, we are proud to sponsor such initiatives that bring a good cross-section of key anti-corruption stakeholders to dialogue on issues of fighting corruption and thereby keeping it high on the national agenda. I wish you all a very pleasant day and evening, and I wish you all the best as we commemorate the Anti-Corruption Week with this key event of awarding the Integrity Awards. Thank you very much.
Give Mr. Wim Stoffels another round of applause. This is the head of Democratic Governance Facility in Uganda. Thank you very much for your speech. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're getting into the main gist, the gist of our being here. Okay, the second most important, because I think the most important is awarding the people who have stood out, people showing a high degree of integrity. But I'm about to invite our keynote speaker. Our keynote speaker is a lady who I think deserves no introduction. This is a woman of substance and a woman of valor. She has represented a district as a woman member of parliament with distinction. She has served our country as a minister with distinction. And our keynote speaker is an author. Our keynote speaker, ladies and gentlemen, she speaks without mincing her words. Our keynote speaker is a woman of faith, a born-again lady. May I now ask you to join me in welcoming to the stage the Honorable Dr. Miriam Matembe.
So who are the big people who are here? Thank you very much, Mr. of Ceremonies. I don't know yet the distinguished guests here, but I will see what to do. When the light is on your face, you don't see many people. But I was told the right Prime Minister is I don't know whether is yet here. But let me say our chief guest, honorable members of Parliament, past and current, permanent secretaries and all government officials, civil society organizations, private sector, all invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, and fellow citizens. I want to thank ACtionAid International Uganda, Transparency International, and Anti-Corruption Coalition of Uganda for organizing this ceremony and giving me an opportunity to share my thoughts on ethics and integrity with you today. I don't know whether this was planned or it was a coincidence that we are here this afternoon to give an award, to give awards after an anti-corruption walk led by the President himself. Being a believer, however, I know there are no coincidences in God's plan. I was able to listen to the representatives of the three organs of the state. The Chief Justice spoke, the Deputy Speaker spoke, and the President. I was able to listen to them, but for the purpose of this occasion, I wish to single out the Deputy Speaker's challenge that all of us are corrupt. The fact that some of you here present are going to get integrity awards is a refusal of his statement that all of us are corrupt. A fact that I'm very happy with. This being an occasion for rewarding integrity, I chose to talk about the virtues of ethics and integrity in this country. In any debate in Uganda, in my opinion, ethics and integrity are very essential values. I'm saying in Uganda, the issues of ethics and integrity should be central to any debate, because in my opinion, ethics and integrity are very essential values in the promotion of democracy, good governance, and development. In Uganda, they are the most scarce virtues. May I quote the President as I heard him this morning in his talk, when he correctly said that corruption, which he identified as the major challenge to his government, to be a moral and spiritual issue, thereby agreeing with me in what I'm telling you right now. Unfortunately, though, I didn't hear him propose a solution to this moral and spiritual problem. I am wondering whether demonstrating against it will handle it. Ladies and gentlemen, let me begin by defining these terms which I'm using. What does ethics mean? I understand ethics to refer to a set of accepted norms and standard of conduct that establish guiding principles of public and private conduct of those who serve the public. Put briefly, ethics is about the wrong and the right, the bad and good, according to the expectation of society which we serve. If you are in public service or private sector or whatever, and you want to know whether you are ethical, the question is what you are doing right or wrong? Is it bad or good? But people who want to avoid such things, they go into jargons, they define complicated words, but it is what you are doing right or wrong? Is it good or bad? Moreover, not according to you, but according to the expectations of the people you serve. In other words, as to whether one has behaved ethically or not will depend on whether what she has done is good or bad, wrong or right, according to the expectations of the public. Again this morning, or it was afternoon, I heard the president clearly declaring himself innocent of corruption in this country. May I have the privilege of reminding him that the duty to judge him lies with those he serves and not himself. May I also say that when there are high levels of moral decadence, as they are in Uganda, what is ethical or not may not be all that clear. You know, you find people urging, but he did this, but he did the other one. When the moral standards are very clear and strong, it is automatic, you don't question. You don't question. Therefore, what is ethical or not is determined by the strength of the prevailing ethical systems. In this country, where they are going, it is very difficult. You really find people arguing and you wonder whether they understand what they are doing. But it is because of the weakness of ethical value systems that have befallen us. Ethics can also be looked at as the norms and standards agreed upon by a society. For instance, all professional groups of people have ethical codes of conduct that govern their professionals. The codes that are based on fundamental principles that form the basis of the group. You find the medical professional, they have their codes. You find lawyers have their codes. I'm really wondering whether these codes still work. During those times, we used to hear lawyers being struck off or suspended from the role. I don't know whether those codes still work, but they are supposed to be there. For instance, in Rotary, you have their principle is service above self. So if that is the best principle that follows you, then all the values that govern you should spring from that principle. Likewise, Christian ethics are expanded in the two fundamental principles: love the Lord your God and love your neighbor as you love yourself. I was amazed this afternoon as I listened, as each head of the three organs of the state upheld the word of God in their lamentations on corruption, seemingly endorsing our motto, for God and my country. And in my mind, I was agonizing and saying, I wish these principles could be embraced by those speaking and all Ugandans. So what is integrity? Integrity is a quality of character, an inward reality that refers to singleness of heart and mind. The development of a blameless character by adhering to an exemplary moral code. It is the oneness of mind, word, and action. Oneness of mind. What you think is what you say and what you do. I wonder how many Ugandans think like this and say it the same and do the same. If you examine and check yourself, do you have a singleness of mind, thought, and action? Integrity is characterized by many distinct features, but I want to single out the following. Clear conscience. A person of integrity has a very clear conscience as to what is wrong and right. You don't find them messing up. There is no blue or white or whatever colors. Clear conscience. You, a person of integrity, involves in innocent actions. Your actions are innocent. Fear of God. Fear of God here means acknowledging God in all your ways and submitting to Him for your guidance. And of course, it entails humility. Truthfulness and opposition to covetousness. Blameless righteousness. Freedom from that which is shameful, crafty, and deceitful. A person of integrity has a very high sense of shame. Of course, a person of integrity disassociates with evil doers. He has honorable character, honorable behavior. I want to say that integrity of heart guides a person into right and rewarding situations. And of course, the Word of God says that integrity of heart is more acceptable to God than a sacrifice. These days in church, people give so much money, the balance of what they have looted. And when they go to church, oh, they are declared canons, they are wearing all these gowns, and they really look big. And God is looking and said, excuse me, I'm looking for integrity of heart. Because all your money, today President Museveni amazed me, he said, remember God is seeing you in whatever you do. I was saying, does he see him also or what? But I was not there to ask him that. That in all you do. So, whether you take all that money or whatever, God looks at your integrity of heart. If I may refer to the word again, in Psalms 78:72, it says, and David, you know, King David was the most loved and favored king in the whole of biblical Israel. And David shepherded them with integrity of heart, with skillful hands, he led them. When you are a leader, you are supposed to have an integrity of heart coupled with a skillful hand. A skillful hand alone does not make you a leader of character. A person's integrity silences critics. That's why integrity is so important. If you are a person of integrity, they will rise up against you, they will say all the nonsense, but at the end of it all, your integrity will silence them. And I want to say that integrity needs to be cultivated at a personal level right from childhood. You don't just pick it. It is built in you. Since integrity entails clear conscience, let me also define what conscience means. Conscience is a universal, innate, God-given capacity to distinguish between right and wrong. It has two functions, namely, to urge an individual to do what is perceived to be right, and subsequently to commend or condemn depending on whether the individual did what was perceived right. Many times I look at what people do in Uganda, especially when these people who brutalize, those people who are brutalizing others, okay, in discharge of their so-called responsibility. You look at them and say, do these people have conscience? You go, you find like the way some doctors and nurses, the way that when they are asking for bribes, you know, from these dying women who are supposed to have babies, and they say, pay first, then you say, really, do they have conscience? Because conscience is that innerness in you which says, this is wrong, this is right. And then it leaves you to choose That's why I call it God-given. It leaves you to choose what is you want to choose. And after choosing, it doesn't leave you free. It either condemns you because of what you have chosen, or it commends you according to what you have chosen. So a person who has a good and pure conscience consistently and generally acts in conformity with an inner set of godly standards. However, conscience also, like ethics, can be distorted. While the inner set of standards will be accurate if it is based on truth, the conscience will be unreliable if faulty standards have consistently been presented to it as being true. I think these are the facts which are happening in Uganda. Because the conscience has been subjected to the wrong truth, it just now becomes the conscience when in fact it depends on faulty facts. Now, having said all this, can we have a reflection on the Uganda society in as far as these virtues are concerned? I want to say that the current systemic and endemic corruption in Uganda is a result of high levels of moral decadence and ethical value degeneration. I think I would be right to say that many Ugandans seem to have lost their souls. For me, many times I cry. By the way, I cry in my house. I cry at my altar. I cry for Uganda. I cry and cry. Because let me tell you, although I'm not like Honorable Chikeire, who has been a witness for 70 years, you need to read that autobiography, you people. Although he has been here for 70 years a witness, I have not been all that many years. But I was here in what he calls Obote 3 government and Amin's government. And I have been here and I was in Museveni's government. And now I am out. But I had never seen Ugandans lose their souls. Yes, they were subjected to violence. Yes, they became poor. Yes, but losing their souls when they are behaving like shells, I had never seen it. And for me, I've been saying that, I think I should speak the truth. I've been saying that in the long run, when we are determining who has killed Uganda, this current government will be judged so. Because taking away the souls of Ugandans, it will not be the roads, it will not be what, but rebuilding the souls of Ugandans, to turn them into respectable human beings of dignity. It will take God. And that's why I cried to him. Because this whole issue, you know, I left government and this politics long ago. I mean the elective politics. I left those long ago. But everywhere I walk on the street, I see very dressed people. They are okay, but they are asking me for money. Mpayo 10K. Mpayo, give me 5K. Give me. How can Ugandans become beggars? You fellow Ugandans, how can Ugandans be beggars? Me, I had never heard about Atuyambe, Amina Atuyambe, all that nonsense. So, hey, save these words. You know, these days I'm trying to be decent in my language, separate it from my mind, but I feel like using those words. Ugandans, please. The souls are gone. This is very serious. The politics of greed for power and materialism have eroded the moral fabric of Ugandan society. The principles of patronage You know, when I was hearing this testimony, I'm very innocent. I said, but what about these envelopes dishing out, buying votes, or this kind of thing, tokenism, patronage of offering small jobs for people? Do they understand what corruption is, or they just think it is just what? I don't understand. Let me go back to normalcy now. I want to say that in a small book entitled The Value of Integrity by Pam Brown, it says, when the government loses integrity, the times are desperate. But when the populace accepts the loss, the times are dangerous. Also, Margaret Hasley, in the same book, says, in the same book, The Value of Integrity, says, if for any reason whatsoever, moral standards are conspicuously and unprecedentedly breached in one area of society, such as the political, it will follow as the night follows the day that those standards will start collapsing all down the line in sports, entertainment, education, the armed forces, business, and government. And I stand here to say that I'm afraid that the times in Uganda are now as dangerous as Pam Brown says, because not only has the government lost integrity in the management of this country, but the population has also accepted the loss. What a pity. And of course, this is, if it takes a whole president and all his government to stand up and say, people, although I'm the one supposed to fight this thing, I think I'm lost. Please come. Let us demonstrate. Is now joined activism like us. That shows you the gravity of the situation. The current situation in Uganda, unfortunately, like in the biblical days of Isaiah, chapter 59, where it says, justice is driven back and righteousness stands at the distance. Honesty cannot enter, truth is nowhere to be found, and whoever shuns evil becomes a prey. Isn't that true? When they are there saying that all of us are corrupt, aren't we there, we people of integrity? But because we have integrity, can we be anywhere? We are shunned as useless, as incapable, because we have not made all these riches. In Uganda, being a person of integrity exposes you to ridicule and punishment at times. What a shame. And it says in Jeremiah that from the least to the greatest, all are greedy for gain. Prophets and priests alike, all practice deceit. They have no shame at all. Isn't that true? We have seen even all these religious leaders, what they do in their churches, or everybody. We are all gone. The philosophy seems to be, get as much as you can, as quickly as possible, anyhow. It is so sad. And in Habakkuk, he says, we have become as greedy as graves. Like death, we cannot be satisfied. In all honesty, I'm sure you will agree with me that there are some Ugandans who have really become graves. They cannot be satisfied. You really wonder, they are taking this land, they are building the other apartments, they are taking this. You really say, isn't this the graves they were talking about? And you know what makes me cry? You know, for me, I didn't go to the bush to fight. I'm not like the Honorable Zindanas and the rest. But when they came here, I embraced them. I embraced them, and what makes me pain is that whatever they told us was wrong, they have not only doubled it, they have tripled it. And you know, I used to be an actor, and I remember one play of Shakespeare. I think it was The Merchant of Venice, and I think I was playing, is it Graciano? She said, the villain you teach me, I will execute, but it will go further, for I will double the instructions. That's what they are doing. They came here telling us, let me tell you, in the language of President Museveni, about accumulation of wealth. He said, upon assuming power as president of Uganda, he was calling such accumulation of wealth as primitive accumulation of wealth. All those people in Kada school, the Otafires, they taught us primitive accumulation of wealth. They were castigating it, they were condemning it in the most possible, strongest words. But now theirs is beyond. Is beyond primitive. I don't know what it has become. I don't know what it has become. And you know what is hurting me? I've been listening to President's speech to do with this work. He has emphasized these civil servants, these public servants. He has not mentioned politicians. He has just left them out. The politicians, even today, I didn't hear anything to do with the politicians. And yet, really, going back, if you want to know how they behave, I think you need to buy this book of mine. Have you read this book? You go and read this book. I tend to believe, actually, that my book might have provoked the work against corruption. Yes, because in this book I detail, I put all the incidents of how there is no political will to fight corruption. Now, to counteract what I'm saying, you mobilize the world, come and join me, and we fight against corruption by walking. It can't work. It can't work. It can't work. So it is a shame that the primitive accumulation of wealth is happening today after 33 years of castigating it in those people who left long ago. What is more disturbing, though, is that he thinks it can be fought by protesting against it. So I can safely say that our motto, for God and my country, has turned into for my stomach and my clan. While God's command to us to love our neighbors as we love ourselves has become love money and power and materialism as you love yourself. What a pity. Everybody, many people who are doing their jobs now, they say, what do I get out of it if I can also use Uganda as he does? Mfunirawa. And you know, today as I listened, somebody said very clearly that the biggest corruption is found in procurement. In procurement and the abuse and misuse of the budget, where they steal money from. And of course, embezzlement. This one, I give you this, you give me a job, is not the main cause. So the main cause is where they belong. Central in the government itself. And if you raise up, tell them, you will see. They are coming out, say, help us. You go there and say, you know what? Anyway, read my book. So, even many Ugandans who would like to stand up for the truth have been engulfed by fear. I don't know why Ugandans fear. I don't know why they fear. They have been engulfed. Me, I went through governments which scared us, and they went, and they scared us, and they went. But if they scare you and you are scared, then they will stay scaring you. You are not supposed to be engulfed by fear, because fear does not help you anyway. Fear is the biggest weapon of the enemy. My advice to you is that fear cannot protect you from anything. stand up and die for what is right. That's what integrity means. So in view of all this that I have said, what can we do? I will just say a few things because I don't have solutions. I want to say that we need a people-centered and service-oriented leadership, which is capable of implementing all the policies and the laws to promote ethics and integrity in public office. It is urgently needed now. You cannot fight corruption. You can't give what you don't have. You have to have a government that have integrity, a leadership that is people-centered and service-oriented. If it is a leadership which is about self and power, forget it. You will continue to cry and you will have many walks, but you will not go much. In my culture, we have a proverb. Meaning that if you are a woman, you know we carry babies at the back. If you are carrying a baby at the back and you are stealing a bunch of matoko, you are stealing whatever, you are showing this fellow this is the way to go. And therefore, if the leadership is doing that, what do you expect from the rest? That is the type of leadership we currently have in this country. So clean leadership which can be able to build critical ethical systems and implement them for the good of us all is a must. If the citizens are infested with high levels of moral decadence, how can they produce ethical leaders of integrity? This means, therefore, that we need to start from the beginning at the family level to inculcate ethical values in our children and promote them in educational systems. For me, I give my personal example. I am who I am because of the two ethical principles instilled in me by my parents. I come from a very poor background, a peasantry background. And as I grew up, of course, I grew up with many teachers, children, the chief's children. Those days, those were the big people. When you are a peasant, you wear only one dress, the uniform. For them, they have shoes, they have what you don't have. But my parents told me, never desire what we can't afford for you. As my parents, they told me, we can't afford all these things for you. Therefore, what do? Don't desire them. We would want to give them to you, but we don't have them. Therefore, don't desire what we cannot give you. If you desire it, you'll get it from dangerous people and your life will be destroyed. I got that. Then they said, don't ever put yourself at a level you have not reached. So I learned that in life there are levels. And those levels, you work to reach those levels. And they go step by step. So I learned that. So those are the principles that have kept me. And I wouldn't tell you that those principles of not desiring what they don't have, and not putting myself at a level I have not reached, have not constrained me to be who I am. They haven't. So they promoted me. I knew that the little I would get from them, if they give me education, that will take me where I should go. But what values do we give our children? If some of you are very busy stealing money, the boxes are in the cupboard, and then you tell the boys, go and pick how many millions, like it happens in schools. They tell us that some people go with big bags of money, the young people. What values and systems are we giving them? So we need to really go back and start. We need to be tired and fed up of what is happening and resolve to start from the beginning. For you, our young people, the young generation, which we have ruined ourselves, we are getting off the stage. You need to really revisit and see how you bring up your children with morals and ethics. And I want to say Ugandans need to reflect on themselves. I know, as Pam Brown says, it is hard to hold on to integrity in times of terror, but many people have defied, like those whom we are rewarding today. The fact that today we are awarding those people who have decided to defy all challenges and odds and stand out of the crowd, like Zacchaeus, who stood out of the Eskimo tree to be counted, shows that all is not lost. There is a man in the Bible called Zacchaeus. He wanted to see Jesus, but the Bible says that Zacchaeus was short, but his shortness notwithstanding, if he was short, he would have seen Jesus if the crowd did not prevent him. It says that Zacchaeus was short and the crowd prevented him from seeing Jesus. So what did he do? He got out of the crowd and stood on the Eskimo tree. Eskimo tree is a very fragile, not firm tree. It is so delicate. It has milky stuffy thing, stones which would pierce you. But he stood out of the crowd that was preventing him to be, and stood on that fragile tree. Like if you came out of the crowd to shun corruption, it is not a very safe ground, it is not a very solid ground, but if you decide to get out, when Zacchaeus got out of the crowd, Jesus saw him. Not only did he see Jesus, but he got more than what he wanted, because Jesus hosted him in his home. So, I want to tell you that there is goodness and beauty in standing out of the crowd to be counted. Because in that scripture, in the crowd, we don't know who else was in the crowd. We only know the one who stood out and Jesus. So, wouldn't you want to be the one to be remembered that you stood out at the time when things were no good? God calls upon us to stand out of the crowd and hold on to good, because he says there is a curse on the house of the corrupt. Today I heard the president saying, God is seeing them and he will deal with them. I said, so be it. Just like the biblical Israel, I'm sure that there are more than 7,000 souls who have not bowed to Baal. In other words, although the situation looks bad, there are many Ugandans who are holding on to ethics and integrity, and it is only because of those that God will help us through this problem. While congratulating those great men and women that have endured to be able to receive this award, I appeal to all of you, all of you present and outside, to rise up, abandon fear and greed, and embrace integrity for the good of our nation. I want to thank God personally that by his grace, I'm one of those people who have been receiving these integrity awards. Along my journey of life, I have come to know and appreciate that life does not exist in positions and possessions, but it exists in knowing God's purpose for your life, utilizing his given talents in service of his people. We need to know that those positions and those talents, possessions, are given to us as stewards. We are supposed to use them in service of God's people and render such a service that gives him glory, rather than robbing his people, because it is God who immensely awards. Ask me. I've been receiving awards and God has been sustaining me. After all, I was chucked without anything, no retirement package, no nothing. But why do I look as a beggar? Do I beg anybody? Do I kneel before anybody? God sustains me. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, truth is the only safe ground to stand upon. Your soul is what you have, and it is what makes you who you are. The fact that our president told us that one day God will deal with us means that your soul one day will go to meet your Creator, and you'll have to see what will happen. I want to pray that when I reach there, which I pray for every day, that I will see many, many of you with me being received in glory by God. Do not compromise yourself by selling your soul for anything. Let each of us play our little part, however little it is, in the promotion of ethics and integrity as we continue to uplift and uphold our nation in the hands of God. After all, our motto is for God and my country, and not for my stomach and my clan, as it has been turned into. I'm sure that by the grace of God, we shall overcome one day. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks very much for listening to me.
Another round of applause for Dr. Miriam Matembe. And Dr. Matembe, thank you very much for ending on a positive note that one day we shall overcome. I've been pondering the words Dr. Matembe has been giving us, and also the biblical quotations. In fact, you began with a biblical quotation on when you said that love, the two great commandments, love your God and love your neighbor. But you know what, ladies and gentlemen? These days, we love our God with our heart, with our soul, but sometimes we're not loving our God with our mind. When you go into some of these churches, what happens? I think we're not loving Him with our mind. Some people have been deceived many times because they have decided to love their God, but they leave the mind. Think about it. Thank you very much. You have given us some kind of a shock therapy that the greed is so much. Sometimes we are as greedy as graves, and that people cannot be satisfied. Can you imagine? And you have told us we should not succumb to fear. I'm going to carry that. A few weeks ago, I happened to move with a member of parliament in a constituency who happens to be my friend. I think he carried maybe about 10 million shillings on him from Friday to Monday. Believe you me, on Monday morning he was looking for money to get fuel to come back to Kampala. They have turned you into real mobile ATMs, and they present real problems. What do you do, Honorable Lutamaguz, if you meet somebody, your voter, and he tells you somebody is sick, bedridden, you cannot afford today, the healthcare system is very expensive? What do you do when they say there's no school fees? What do you do when they present real problems to you? Because the systems are not working, so you keep giving and giving and giving. So I sympathize with you. I don't know how you do it, but it's happening. No wonder some of you don't want to go back. And now I know. So you need also, by the way, to read the book of Dr. Matembe. I think it's called Gender, Politics and Constitutional Making in Uganda. It's a wonderful book. It can give you an account of what happens. There's another Ugandan who has written a book. His name is called Sam Aisu. I've never met him, but somehow he sent me a book called The End of the Road. That book.
Mukaga kusabire zo kumakia ngene kuzomezi mu 7 December kudamu otajinja emiryango gigulewo tuyingira mu Coca-Cola Rolex Festival. Christmas tugenda jiranga buchali n'abayimbi banji nnyo omuli Eddie Kenzo, Victor Maker, Spice Diana, Fefe Busi, Palazzo, VIP Jemo, jangu tulye bikabya Rolex zonna okuyingira zikira kwera omutwalo gumugoka VIP emitwalo 2 atabana 15 kudamu otaze jinja ekutusi wako Coca-Cola.
The trendsetters, the icons, and the fashionistas come together for the biggest night in fashion. The A. Bryant's Style and Fashion Awards, live at the Kampala's Arena Hotel, Friday, 13th December 2019. With red carpet appearance from African stars featuring Oswald Boateng, performance by Jidena, and showcases that will leave Africa talking. ASFA 2019, The Stars. Let the star in you shine. Get your early bird tickets now at the A. Bryant's Collection Shop, Talent Africa offices, and online on the ASFA website. Powered by Talent Africa, Serena Hotels, NTV, Capital FM, Isuzu, Schweppes, Reach a Hand Uganda, South African Airways, Imagine Designs, Fenon, Pink Coconut, MAC Cosmetics, Spice TV, Uber, JMM, and Ciroc Ultra Premium Vodka. Alcohol not to be sold to persons under 18. Please enjoy responsibly.
Forget the long line hassle. With OneXBet, the ball placing the perfect bet is at your fingertips. Bet anytime from anywhere. Best of all, payment is instant. Place your bet on whatever you choose. Virtual games, bet games, sports, and even live betting. Winning has never been this simple. Bet with OneXBet. Advanced gaming is regulated by the Lotteries and Gaming Regulatory Board. Betting is addictive and can be psychologically harmful, and it's only eligible to persons above 18 years of age.
When they flip and roll and start to crawl away, tape diapers can be hard to put on and can come loose. Then it's time for Pampers Pants. With all-round fit, they're easy to pull on even when they're moving around. Pampers Pants absorb wetness rapidly and lock it away better for up to 12 hours of dryness. So when they start to crawl, you know it's time for Pampers Pants.
Now available in low counts at only 7,000 shillings per pack.
Get ready for the biggest stand-up of the year, the Panatana Majority, alongside the biggest artists in Uganda, John Black, Eddie Kanzo, Kipenda Munji, Fefe Busi, Vic Fameka, Levixon, Maronina, Rose, Chosen Blood, VIP, J-Mo, Saspeleza, Kosa, Nati Nathan, Big Trill, The Agent, Exodus, and many more. It's going down at Lugogo Hockey Grounds, Saturday, 7th December, 5K before 12 p.m. and 10K afterwards. Ladies and gentlemen, we're doing it for charity, and do not miss bouncing castles, face painting and color fights. Action starts at 9 a.m. till 6 p.m.
Hosted by Crystal Panda, sponsored by
of applause. Is he not gifted? Thank you very much, Davis. And for those who know that song, I think it's actually even talking about the very words Dr. Matembe was telling to us, that, oh God, you are children. We ask you to lead us because we are sinners. If I can remember the Nyakitara song, that's what it was trying to say. But I'm sure it's also in the different languages and meaning the different, giving us the same meaning. That we, oh God, you are children. We are asking you to lead us because we are sinners. And I think we need some divine intervention in this. There's another gifted young man before we go into a panel discussion, young lady, into a panel discussion, and she's using the spoken word. and come and speak to us with your poem, young lady.
Thank you. My name is Namobiri Immaculate. I'm a poet, a writer, a student from Makerere University. I'm a proud teacher trainee. I'm going to recite one of the late Professor David Rubadiri's poem, Yet Another Song, because he inspires me a lot. Yet another song I have to sing. In the early work of a colonial desk, I sang a song of fire. The church doors open to the clang of new anthems and colorful banners. Like the Beatles, the evangelical hymns of conversions rocked the world and me. I knelt before the new totems I had helped to raise, watered them with tears of ecstasy. Today I sing yet another song, a song of exile. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Another round of applause. Okay, now I'm going to invite a panel to take their seats right here. I'll give them some time so that they can maybe make the opening statements of about 2 to 3 minutes. Then after that, we will engage them with questions, and then we shall have a plenary. And when it reaches time for plenary, you'll put up your hand from wherever you're seated. I'll point to you, and the microphone will be brought to you. And then you either ask a question. You can also be precise whom you want that question to be directed to. And please, should you disagree, let us disagree with respect. Because respect is also part of integrity. And integrity is what has brought us here. And if I know your name, I'll say your name. If I don't, I'll say where you are seated. If I don't say that, maybe I'll mention the color of your garment. So that you take a minute, and then you give the microphone to the next person, so that we can get as many views as possible. But first, after the panel has made their presentation. Let us invite with a round of applause. Our first panelist is the president of one of the oldest parties in Uganda, the Uganda People's Congress, and is a member of parliament representing Lira Municipality, the Honorable Jimmy Akena. Our next panelist is also another man of integrity, a man of substance who has served this country with distinction. He's a former ombudsman and the former member of parliament, the Honorable Augustine Ruzindana. Our next panelist, ladies and gentlemen, is a chairperson or chairman of a district in northern Uganda. He's a young man. He has won many accolades as the most effective chairperson, district local government leader in that capacity. And he is Mr. Martin Ojara Mapenduzi, my brother Omera Ladit. And last but not least, our next panelist is working in the office of the president in the Directorate for Ethics and Integrity. He's the Director for Ethics/Religious Affairs. Welcome with me with a round of applause, the Reverend Canon Aaron Mwesije. I think I'm going to begin with the Honorable Martin Ojara Mapenduzi, and maybe let me direct some question. Then I'll step aside so that I don't obscure the people there. Mr. Mapenduzi, the dividends of a corruption-free local government, service delivery and citizenship. Would want you to tell us the dividends of a corruption-free local government and how you have been able to handle your situation in Gulu district, where you have won many accolades from when they are gauging the leaders of local council 5 in our country. Mr. Mapenduzi, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Patrick Kamara, the panelists, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First, I want to very sincerely thank the keynote speaker, the Honorable Dr. Maria Matembe, for our boldness, but also for giving us a very packed message this evening. And from what you said, and I want to link it directly to what my brother Patrick Kamara just said, and drawing from the experience of local government. And I'll start from the direction you brought to us. The Bible says, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. I'm not like her, so I'm not able to tell you where exactly. It's somewhere between Genesis and Revelation. So you can read and find out. And if you cannot read the entire Bible, please, you can read Proverbs. You can find something there. What I have seen with local government, the time I have worked as district chairman, and this is not just Gulu, I think it cuts across many local governments. We have a problem in this country, and it takes every citizen to stand up and be part of the solution, because we are going to keep on lamenting, and it will keep on running round and round and round and to not move. For some of us who work with the population down there, I'm happy I can see many of my colleagues, the district chairpersons are here. You know very well that when you have a system that is quiet on issues that are not ethically right, that quietness will end up compromising the quality of the services you offer, and also it goes further in compromising the quality of the citizens you lead. So every stage or every step in corruption has a far-reaching impact. My colleagues who are seated there will tell you the kind of population we lead today. Just like Patrick Kamara put it, when you go to hold a community meeting, talking to people about clean water, health services and all that, you may think the citizens are very attentive listening to you, but as you conclude and you want to go, they'll say, how do you leave us? Because looks like the most important concluding word is what you are going to leave them with, as if you have not left them with messages that are important to them. But that comes when we allow the systems that should work for people get compromised, and the people begin to think that is the way to go. So they end up taking that. So we see that every day we deliver services. And so the impact of corrupt practices is severe on services, but it's also severe in terms of creating the kind of mindset or culture that we have in the population. I can tell you, I had an interaction with one of our very senior officers in the district, a very honest man. And he told me, said, you know, Chairman, I am about to retire. I have seen some of my colleagues who are about to retire. They are so restless. They are not sure the kind of world they are going into, and so they struggle to get anything. They want to get anything. So those who are retiring think life outside service is not safe, and so can only be safer by getting so much wealth. And they end up picking money that should go towards the service delivery. But he also told me that even those who join, those who have just joined, want to do things so fast to get everything within 3 or 4 years, the kind of things that decent people can get in 30 or even more years. That is what happens. So I want to agree with the Honorable Maria Matembe when she said there is serious corruption in the procurement system. I am sure my colleagues who are here can give you clear examples that the worst form of corruption in the local government system starts from procurement. But even the corrupt people are graduating, they're improving. They're improving their corrupt tendencies. So right now, instead of people stealing money, they include their ill motives in the entire planning system. So people now plan and they know by next financial year, in the planning process, they know they are going to get something out of it. Because as systems get better, you move away from handling checks to now IFMI system and all that. So we begin to see that the corruption is getting rooted but also getting more complicated. So when I see people marching on streets, demonstrating against corruption, that is okay. But it takes much more. And we need to be prepared. I see Patrick Singh is watching. I want to be very quick and conclude. The other thing that I'll not forget to touch on is that looks like in this country we have built several cultures. We see on a day-to-day basis that the culture of hard work is no more in this country. The culture of But the culture of spending has grown taller than the culture of hard work and the culture of saving. And that is why when you go to a small function, a small wedding function deep down there, you see somebody coming with a budget of 200 million. 200 million to spend on a one-day ceremony. And then you see the community now even having bigger celebration for kindergarten, kids. People graduating from K3 to join P1, the celebration sometimes takes 2 nights. People have big budgets. That tells you the kind of society we are living in right now. So we need to do much more in changing a lot, especially on the way we think, the way we look at work, and how we fight corruption generally. The other thing that I will touch on briefly is that from the local government point of view, sometimes you find people creating rules to favor their corrupt tendencies. I'll give you a few examples. Recently in my village, I met the chairman, LC1. He's my cousin. And this chairman, LC1, decided with this executive that anybody coming to rent in his area has to pay 20,000 shilling from rent. And we said, what law is that? So who gives you the authority to decide that anybody who has built, somebody coming to rent pays 20 and the one renting pays 20? And then goes on to people buying land. Somebody buying land, you have to pay 10% of what you have sold. And so there are people who come up, they use their offices to create environment that end up defrauding the citizen. So there are a lot that we have to do. So just to conclude, because I know time is not on our side, just to conclude, I think in the public sector, and especially local government level, looks like a culture of behaving like vultures has been built, where people want to see anything that is available and creating an environment where they get something out of it. So where is that culture of sacrificing and serving the citizens with the kind of pride that you'd want to see? Where is it? And we should have very deep reflection over these issues. I want to give you an example, the last example. Recently, I got complaints from citizens, and I sat with my team. And I said, let us look deeply into these concerns. regarding how people are recruited, the District Service Commission. So when I started the process of finding out the truth about it, I actually found out that the complaints are genuine. They are true. Where some people who did not make it are given jobs. So we went further and started interacting with some of those alleged recruited officials. And we found out that a lot of money is extorted from citizens in the recruitment process. So when I decided that a special investigation takes place, one officer came to me and said, you know, Chairman, first of all, the district is going to end up losing a lot of money. Because what are you going to do with those who have been recruited irregularly? I said they don't deserve the job. If they have not been recruited correctly, they will have to lose that job. He said, no, the district is going to lose a lot of money. That is a risky path. And what about these officers who are alleged to have been involved? What do we do? You see, they have families, you know, these are people who have sacrificed a lot, and people make mistakes, and then you begin to see the kind of pressure. Just because people think there are certain practices that should be forgiven, but the moment you allow that to continue, it becomes a culture, it compromises the quality of work, and at the end of the day, the citizens don't get what they deserve. The very final, Ladit Patrick. I'll give the example of my cousin brother. I joined the local government in 2006 as a councillor and became district council speaker when Chairman Mao was our district chairman. After a few months, a group of contractors came to my home. Unfortunately, I was not home, so they found my wife. And they said, you know, we have come to see Ladit. We are so happy he has gotten there. And they came with a gift. And what gift? 5 million shilling. Why? 5 million shilling. To do what? And so when I came back and I got this, and I said, by the way, first of all, I do not know these people. I have never met them. When I was doing campaign, nobody came with this kind of thing. Oh, I want to support your campaign. But now they know I am district speaker and I have a voice, so they can think they can use that voice to influence a certain decisions. Then later on, when I became district chairman, the same cousin came to me and said, you know what? Actually, I realized those contractors were led by my cousin brother. So, in other words, from behind me, without me knowing, he has turned to be an ambassador who goes out to people trying to, you know, telling them, you know, this man will help you, I can connect you, but you know, you can do something and all that. I'm not sure how much money he could have even got from those people. And we need to be very careful. District chairpersons, we are here. We need to be very careful with the people close to us and the people who work with us, because they end up using our offices to defraud the population. So later on, this gentleman came back and said, you know what, you are a fool. You have been to this office and there's nothing much. Actually, we are suffering. And I said, did I make any commitment that when I come to this office, your life will get better? We have land in the village, you went to school, and you think it's my responsibility to sort out your problem, and you don't want to use the knowledge you have got. And they turn against me. But you know, we are cousins, so even if you turn, still we remain relatives. But these are things that we have happening at every level of, you know, responsibility, and we need to stand up and condemn such practices. So I would conclude by saying that the local governments have to be given a much more attention. And the people who are involved in the fight against corruption, all of us who condemn corruption, need to use an approach that is more biting. Today I have seen the president walking. I don't know what tomorrow is going to happen. But the moment it should not be a show. I support every effort to fight it. But what about a chairman LC3, a chairman LC5 or a councillor, a cow or an officer? What about the people down there? How are we going to change the story? How are we going to make that kind of life more unattractive? What are we going to do?
Okay.
And I can honestly tell you, even the arms of government that are supposed to hold people accountable, do auditing. The chairman of Ngora is seated right there. We have been complaining. Even the people who come to audit local governments are corrupt. They are corrupt. Yes. Why? Because you talk to our accounting officers. Some of them will fear telling you, but some of these people, when they come, they harass our people. They tell you to accommodate them, you meet the expenses, and they tell you, you know what, there is this line here which is very bad. What are we going to do about it? And the statement is purely to begin making you sweat and think. And they end up getting money from you. So we should not lie ourselves. The other time when we were having our national budget conference at the office of the Prime Minister, I asked and said, who is going to audit the auditors? And somebody said, you know what, there is an independent firm. I am not talking about that independent firm. Mine is a lamentation, because even the people who are supposed to hold us accountable have joined the problem. They are part of the problem. So all of us have to wake up and find a more lasting solution.
Thank you very much. A round of applause to Mr. Martin Ojara Mapenduzi, LOC5 chairperson for Gulu. You realize I've given him more time, but because he's talking about real things are happening in the real situation in our districts, in the local government, and you cannot even say stop there. I could not, even though you kept on saying the last one and the last one.
I'm sorry.
But everything you brought was powerful. So thank you very much. The Honorable Augustine Ruzindana, we want your insights regarding the quest for integrity and improved service delivery in Uganda. You know, many people have said before that when you look into early 2000s, in the late 90s, that we are a country full of integrity. But somehow we started losing it. Where did we lose it? So we go back and pick it. How did we start losing the sense of integrity? Because maybe in the 70s, even during the tumultuous times of Idi Amin, people still had a sense of integrity. But it looks like now that sense of integrity, the majority, is gone. What happened to us?
Thank you, MC. Let me start with an apology. I have a congested chest, and so my voice is not coming out quite well. And I was going to have quite a bit of a misfortune. Late in the morning, I started getting a stomach problem. And then I said, now, are these people going to think that I feared to talk about corruption? Then the other problem I did have, I actually thought that this was linked to the coronal function. Coming immediately after it, I thought that those who are in Kororo were also coming here, and we would be talking to them. Now, let me thank Honorable Miria. She's my neighbor in Kampala, and we go quite a long way. Mr. Matembe, her husband, we were in the same house at Intare, so I better make peace with my neighbor first, and then say something. Now, corruption is a very complex phenomenon. When you look at what the speeches that were made today and speeches which are usually made about corruption, it is about corruption of persons. But corruption is corruption of persons, of systems, and of processes. Now, if you only deal with corruption of persons and the systems in which they operate are themselves corrupt, you will not deal with the phenomenon of corruption. You talked about, somebody talked about procurement. It is the processes of procurement. And quite often, these processes are faulty from the building blocks. And no matter how good the person administering the processes is, then the inbuilt corruption within those processes will not allow integrity to take place. I'll give you an example. Public funds must be used for public purposes. But if Parliament allocates funds to purposes that are not public, the ones who are going to handle these monies for purposes which are not public, like the ones for donations, for example, they are not public purposes. And yet Parliament allocates those funds. The Auditor General will audit. The Auditor General has no power to challenge what Parliament has passed. The Inspector General of Government has no role in policy making or in challenging policy. So they will only see whether what was voted by Parliament has been used for the purposes for which the funds were voted. But those purposes may not actually be public purposes. So when we are dealing with corruption, we must understand what we are dealing with. Because a lot of the things that are talked about will not deal with corruption. What is the basic problem in this country and other countries like us? The main problem, the legal framework is there, the institutional framework is there. But what is missing? That corruption is not risky. It is not. It's not a risky engagement, and that's what changed. When you see, I was Inspector General of Government I was founder Inspector General of Government, and I was there for 10 years. And at that time, the environment was not so conducive of corruption. Ministers at that time used to be invited by business people for dinner, and they would report it. Now, can you imagine that happening now? In a subsequent period. So, although the legal framework is there, the institutional framework is there, the environment in which they are working is not conducive for the fight against corruption. And so, where corruption fighting can succeed is where corruption is the exception. When corruption is the norm, then you can't fight the norm. Those who have integrity, those who don't want to engage in it, will be ejected by the system. They'll be ejected by the system. And so, corruption itself becomes the normal behavior of society. And so, you will find people posing the wrong questions, people giving the wrong solutions, that public officers are the problems. No, public officers don't bribe themselves. No, they don't bribe themselves. There are two concepts that people don't understand. There is bribery and extortion. Extortion is where the initiative is taken by the receiver. Bribery takes place when the initiative is taken by the giver. But all these take place. Extortion actually is takes place more than bribery. They give the money after someone has kept the file for a long time. It's not moving, and so on, and so let's understand what we are dealing with. Now, can corruption be dealt with? Yes, it can. The necessary infrastructure must be put in place. We are giving a lot of discretionary power to people who do not have the training to deal with that discretionary power. And I've been proposing that probably in our schools, secondary schools, primary schools, universities, we need a cross-cutting discipline that is taught to everybody, like SST is taught in primary school and so on, so that an engineer who becomes manager of umeme is armed with the concepts of integrity. They are not, and many other places. And I think we need to think about this other one. And finally, there is a problem that corruption creates. Corruption delegitimizes leaders and leadership, because corruption is theft. A thief has no respect. And where a society thinks that its leaders are thieves, that's what you say when you say corruption is rampant, then there is a big problem. No matter whether roads are built, whether health centers are put in place, whether schools are put in place, as long as people believe that you are not doing enough, because the leakages through corruption are tremendous, then you are wasting a lot of time. And so the work today, of course, in civil society we have been working for a long time. This anti-corruption week, when we started it a long time ago, we used it to end it with an address to a specific minister, like Minister of Ethics, and that's how the Freedom of Information Act came into place. We addressed the need for a Freedom of Information Act. It was moved as a private member's bill, and the government took it up and so on. And every anti-corruption week ended, I'm not sure now, ended with a theme, but addressed to a specific authority that was responsible for something within the fight against corruption. And this is what probably should have been done. Now, if they came out and worked, maybe we should encourage them and say, look, what is happening now delegitimizes, no matter how what is done, whatever is done. And then we can. And finally, again, I need to mention that Honorable Maria talked about my original scene of the bush and so on, but that not all people who went to the bush are not people of integrity. I think some of us have tried our best to live with integrity. And then finally, I did retire from active politics now about 7 years ago. And so I am more in civil society. Even when I was in public life, I was involved in the founding of Transparency International. I am on the advisory board of Transparency International, the Uganda chapter, and the international one. When I was in Parliament, I was founder chair of the of APNAC, African Parliamentarian Network Against Corruption. And by the time I retired from chairmanship, we had 20 chapters in African Parliament. And the main thing was to strengthen Parliament and members of Parliament, to enable them to carry out their oversight function. It is a function that parliaments and parliamentarians do not carry out effectively, because it is the anti-corruption element of parliament, besides passing laws and so on.
Right.
But there is that one that should be done. And so I'm not sure I showed you why at the beginning. At the beginning there was the useful aspect, the aspect when people were still following the principles that had taken them to the bush. And over time, and of course there is the principle that staying in power itself is a corrupting, for a very long time, itself is a corrupting agent. And that's what has happened with the degeneration over time. Thank you very much.
Very much, Honorable Gaston Zindana. Thank you very much. You are also, I think, in the Public Accounts Committee as the chairperson.
I was chair. I was first chair after the new constitution came into place for 5 years, and we are the ones who delinked the Public Accounts Committee for central government and local government. When I was chair, public accounts had both, and we recommended the delinking.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, now let us hear from the Honorable Jimmy Akena on electoral and political integrity, the role of leadership in promotion of integrity in community and public sector in Uganda. The role of leadership. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Kamara. Let me start by thanking my mother, Miriam Matembe, for the wonderful keynote speech. It was a thought-provoking speech, and it helped put some of these matters into a clearer perspective. I want to start by emphasizing that corruption is more or less, or to borrow from Miriam Matembe's keynote address, corruption is like a cancer. And the essence of cancer is when the cells essentially divert from their set purpose.
They rebel.
And they just start on the issue of accumulating as much of the body's resources. And when left unchecked, it will destroy the host. We may take the political aspect as the most visible aspect and the aspect which we want to focus on, but any cancer will destroy this nation. And being an incurable optimist, I am actually very glad that the walk against corruption took place today, in that it is putting in focus that corruption is something which I don't think anybody now can say that it can be tolerated or the like. But now we need to deal with the question of what do you do when you have this sort of cancer within our society. In our lives, when cancer affects the body, the treatment for cancer are not simple treatments. You either have the radiotherapy, you have the surgery to remove the cancer, and you also have chemotherapy. None of those treatments is something which you take lightly. And all of these treatments can cause serious problems in themselves. Like, for example, chemotherapy is literally poisoning the body, but because of the greed of the cancer cells, the hope is that the cancer cells will consume more of it before the rest of you runs into problems. So when we have cancer the corruption in focus, I think we can all step up and address this issue, because it goes beyond politics. And when you bring the question of integrity in politics, I am actually quite fearful in that not so long ago my children were contesting for prefect in primary school. And what I saw in those elections was actually a testament that we are heading in the wrong direction. There were posters, massive posters. You find the whole street practically covered. Others are coming with public address systems. They have brought things for their fellow students. Others are bringing sweets. Others are bringing all sorts of things. And it made me really reflect that, where are we heading? As a politician, this matters come into focus. Each election has become more expensive. There are things which you are called upon. I think my brother can attest that sometimes you are called to give advice. When a group calls you to give advice, you must know what that means. When you meet various, as Chairman Mapinduzi said, you can be meeting people dealing with a specific issue of their concern, whether it is a borehole or whether you're meeting leaders. At the end of the day, there's going to be, where's the transport refund, or better language is the facilitation. So the terminologies have kept on changing, but what we've been avoiding amongst ourselves is that we have this cancer which is growing, and left unchecked, it will destroy us. The fact that the president has now taken a stand, I welcome it with both arms, and now we need to take it to the next level. That where you have a cancer, that cancer must be removed. In many cases, when the cancer is there, you may lose a body part. If the cancer is in a place where it has spread quite far, often the medical recommendation is remove that organ which is too badly infected. And we must also approach it in the far as Uganda is concerned. If cancer has entered into the political sphere, we must address it. If it has entered in other spheres, it must be addressed, but we cannot leave it unchecked, otherwise it is going to destroy us. As a society, across board, I'm not here specifically defending what the head of the institution, which I am a member of, but in all areas, this question of corruption exists. As somebody who lived a lot of my life in exile, I came back to Uganda, and one thing which struck me immediately is how we as Ugandans drive on the roads. Those who have traveled, you will come to realize that this is a completely different world. I was actually recently pleasantly surprised that through this safe border issue, you get border stopping at traffic lights, obeying traffic rules. Previously, border had no rules. They will go any wrong side of the road, right side of the road, whether the lights are there. And in fact, in front of those who are charged with maintaining traffic, the police officers, you find the borders crisscrossing and whatever. But it's something which had not been addressed. And it took me time to adapt. Now, sometimes when I'm driving around, like at night, I'm dimming lights for a motorcycle rider, there are people who look at me and say, what's wrong with this one? Most of our drivers, if the motorcycle, they just go full lights. They don't care. At night, if you're almost alone on the road, red light means nothing. Now, on all of these issues, we have put the rules aside. And as a country, we must now step up and really address these issues. We must not stop only at the political. We must take it all through and try to build this nation which we deserve, because we have no other nation. And if we accept the nation to completely be taken over by this corruption, we'll be to blame. But as a political leader in this time and at this moment, I'll gladly jump onto this issue, and taking line from what has happened today, and also in appreciation of the approach which has been done, that not only should we be lamenting about what has gone wrong, let us reward and also raise up a standard of what is right. that way we'll be giving a better way of dealing with this question, because the negatives will be there, but let us show that there's a positive way. There's a way where integrity can really take precedence in all of these, in all these matters. And bring it back to the question of politics, and touching on the analogy of the medical situation. Currently, most members of parliament have bought ambulances. It's a fact. I mean, it's some pressure which you fall under. Members of parliament have bought ambulances. You see them all over the country, donated by so-and-so. And we are dodging the question that there is a problem in the health sector and health service delivery. But as a member of parliament, you're pushed into a corner and you're forced to address a question. The voters are putting you under pressure, and you put in this aspect. But we also need to take a step back and make sure that the systems, as Honorable Rosindana said, systems and processes must work. And if those systems are not working, we can inadvertently be aiding the corrupt processes, where we think we're doing the right thing for our voters, also is what is expected, but we're not addressing the root cause, and we're not dealing with the problems which we face as a society.
Thank you very much, Honorable Jimmy Akena. And you know, some of those ambulances, Honorable, are actually not ambulances, they're just ambulances' name. Maybe they're just mobile billboards for them, because when you look at them, even a patient may not survive in those ambulances. And I think the health sector should seriously be reviewed, because even all of you can agree with me, and I can imagine your corporate Ugandans. God forbid, should you fall sick and you are admitted in any of these top hospitals in Kampala, maybe for 5 or 7 days, you will go back into real poverty, because the bill they will give you, you not manage it. And that's true. Maybe some of the privileged people will fly out, but if you go to some of these hospitals for 2 weeks, we are all in perpetual vulnerability. Let me now bring in the Reverend Canon Aaron Mwesji, because how ethical values and integrity in community and public sector impede development is what we want to hear from you. We also know there are so many institutions of government that have been set up to fight corruption. Even today, there was a walk. So what is going to be next? Because almost everything has been done.
Thank you so much, Patrick. First of all, I would like to tell those of you who are here that Patrick said that the country has no ethical values. We have a national ethical value policy, which is here. This policy was launched in 2013. Now, what is the problem? As a country, research was made, money was spent. I was not part of the exercise. But in 2013, a national ethical value policy was launched by the president, and he ascended it. And those of
I
you
don't
who want
deny
to
the
read,
fact that you have them in your cabins.
Yeah.
I deny that it is not with the people.
That's true. That's
they don't
what-
understand them.
That's where I'm going.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is that you have got a policy. Even today, actually, we launched the zero tolerance to corruption, and yet corruption has come to stay. So the values are there, but why is it that corruption has come to stay? First of all, I think I would like to also to appreciate Honorable Miriam Matembe, my mentor and my friend. Now, Martin Luther King Jr. said that our lives begin to end the moment we remain silent on things that matter, which means that if the right people become silent, then evil triumphs. So Miriam, thank you. Now, we have media like Kamara here. There are very many people, media, and by the way, media influences society. They influence attitudes of a nation. They influence values of a nation. I don't know how many media people who are here, including Kamara, have read Honorable Miriam Matembe's book, A Betrayed Democracy. Actually, Miriam, I bought that book last week. I am on page 67. It's a very good book. I want to tell you that as a country, we have a lot of challenges as individuals as families, as institutions, that we need to come up together as a nation to look at the root cause of corruption and we defeat it. I think Jomo Kenyatta said that our children may learn about heroes of the past. Our task is to make ourselves architects of the future. Now, what is the problem, Kamara? The problem in Uganda is that the institutions that he was talking about, the Directorate for Ethics and Integrity, IGG and what have you, the president and the rest, we actually tend to deal with the present and the future, and the past as we fight corruption. We have forgotten the future. And what do I mean here? That what many leaders in parliament, in government, are not addressing is the fundamental question about the kind of people we want to become in future. What is lacking in our plans for the future is the moral vision. Because there is a direct connection between the integrity of a society and its survival. And we are not tackling this as a nation. We are putting institutions in place, we are taking policies in place. This is something that we are not tackling. And what I am saying here is that as a country, like the president said today, services, commercial agriculture, ICT. So as a country, just as the country needs sound structure, infrastructure, such as roads, such as hospitals, such as airports, a nation also needs the values. Values are what economists call non-tangible assets. These are like self-control, these are like trustworthy, these are like hard work, integrity, tolerance, respect for authority, name it. If we go in our schools today, all this that I'm talking is not there. If we don't address, for instance, the question of cheating in schools and universities, the products of people who actually pass through cheating, syndicate corruption, where you find that a school like I'm sorry to use this, and please don't quote me, St. Mary's Kitende, everyone passed in grade 1. The next year, all the parents will combine with the children to go to that school. Because the educational system is only to pass exams. You go to Makerere, it is the same. The graduates, when they come and you ask them what they want to do, you say, I want a job. There is no focus. That compromises even geniuses. Do you know that in our current educational system, we don't have geniuses? Now, if you cheat in exams in primary, you cheat in secondary, you pass exams, you cheat in the university, and you go to parliament, what do you expect? You have to be corrupt, whether the president is a good leader or not, whether you like it or not. So we have to address things like cheating in exams. Now, cheating exams, I don't think that the president will address it. I'm telling you, even if he appoints now, that one can be done by teachers, that can be done by parents. So what I'm trying to say, in fact, Douglas, a professor, I think he was an educational psychologist, he said one time, an American, it is easier, you listen to this, it is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. This country is engaged in repairing broken men and women. That is why we have the IGG, we have the Auditor General, we are repairing broken men. I am telling you, so money, a lot of money is spent in repairing broken men, not building children. We need to start to build children at family level. We parents who are here, so that by the time the children go to parliament, they will shun corruption, whether you like it or not. Because they have grown knowing that corruption is evil. At family level, they go to school, they will not cheat, they will actually shun. In our past, I did Cambridge exams. Miriam Matembe, you are aware. You know that. Our exams. Some of us failed exams, we couldn't balance papers. You have a 3 in history, you have a 6 in mathematics, but you know we are what we are. Some of us have 2 degrees, others. So fail, as my teacher one time told me, is just first attempt in learning. But fail in Uganda means failing, and therefore everyone has to pass. So I'm just looking at one aspect, and that is a very big aspect. Cheating in exams leads to corruption, whether you like it or not. So what do we need? We have values, yes. We have institutions, yes. But these institutions cannot work when all of us, we are not working together to defeat. Let us address the question of dependency syndrome and apathy among the youth. Let us address the question of family. We have got culture. Originally we had cultural values. We had political values. Why don't we emphasize values, economic values? I think President Museveni should actually be talking of a saving culture. That's an economic value. Respect for authority, that's a social value. You know, these values are necessary. I'm after the children. People, please stop. We are tired of talking about Idi Amin, of Obote, of Karen Museveni. I'm telling you, we shall continue lamenting. The current government will be attacking the past governments. Those who are criticized, those who are in opposition, will attack the current government. Let us see how we can construct the future. Let's see how we can build our children. We have lost it as far as the present and the past is concerned. But the hand of the Lord is not too short to save the future generation. I want to tell you that we can do it. And this is how we can do it. Let us start, let us have, for instance, a leaders summit for the elders. Justice Ogola chairs the elders forum. Let him bring all the fathers to promote parenthood or parenting, so that the fathers are not only going home after work. You know, I'm sorry to tell you, some of you even don't know your children, especially those of you who have many wives. You don't know them even with one wife, because the children go to school when you have gone to work, when you are asleep. They sleep when you are not there, and you don't know them at the end of the day. Now, how will they get to know values? Now, you want these children to become responsible citizens through schools, to become responsible citizens in future, so that when they are in parliament, they behave in a manner that is conducive to befitting public interest. You will lose it. So, let us address the question of families. The mindset should be addressed at family level. The challenges are caused by cultural practices and beliefs. Let us address them, because in the past we had values which are cultural, which were religious. Let us use the RFBOs. As I talk now, let me tell you, I want to tell you that when I assumed office as a director for religious affairs, I started developing a national policy for religious and faith-based organization. But I want to tell you, I am now, yesterday I signed an affidavit in the High Court. Pastors have taken the case in the High Court against the policy. Now, I told them, yes, some of them yesterday, first of all, there is no policy in place. We are still consulting. Why really fear something that is not there? Secondly, just a mere paper, you are fearing it. Are you doing something that is wrong? Why do you fear a policy that sets the guidelines for effective operation? This is the kind of society we are living in. I am telling you the truth because of political patronage. Some of the pastors don't want. Freedom of worship has been abused, because the Article 29 says there is freedom of worship, but it must, the way you exercise it must be consistent within the law. That consistency is not exercised as far as our freedom of worship. I'm just giving an example, because if there is abuse of worship or abuse in the religious circles, what do you expect from parliamentarians? I'm telling you the truth. And some of these parliamentarians are part, as Honorable Matembe said, they're the ones who are given pews, better pews in their churches, because they pay a lot. Some of the money is misappropriated. So the issue is, let us tackle our houses. Let's start with families. Let's start with children. That is where the problem is. Integrity is not there because we actually concentrate on the past and the present. Let us plan for the future.
Thank you very much. A round of applause to Reverend Canon Aaron Mwesje and all the panelists, so thank you very much. Now, we reach that moment where you have to be part of the discussion, and you will hear your views. Maybe you have a question, but please, I ask you to be very precise and concise so that we can get more views. So I will not give you more than a minute. And you tell us your name and where you're from and go direct to the question or the submission that you have. We have a lady in blue. Please let us have a microphone if somebody could help me.
My name is Nkai Hannington, winner of the NSSF Friends with Benefits Season 2.
Congratulations, Hannington!
I used my winnings to boost my agricultural production and give a chance to the people in my community to work.
So join us this year for the third season of the NSSF Friends with Benefits, as 16 Ugandans share inspirational stories on how they use their NSSF benefits to do life-changing things. So tune in every Sunday with your host, Gaetano, and I, and special new host, Uncle D. It's another incredible display. It's the NSSF Friends with Benefits.
And that's not all. You have the power to vote for your favorite stories to win up to 55 million shillings, just like Huntington. This show is brought to you by
NSSF, a better life.
My Little Luxury with Imperial Leather. Signature fragrance can whisk you away to another world where anything is possible. A clean body and a good smelling skin can elevate your mood and give you a quick boost of positivity. My Little Luxury was brought to you by Imperial Leather.
Buy an Imperial Leather soap, lotion, and shower gels for your chance to win 10 million shillings and 3 nights for 2 in Dubai.
The third edition of the Entebbe Fish Festival is back. Come with your family to learn and celebrate sustainable fisheries and eat all the fish you can. Narpach, pizza, chikalai, whatever your choice, we have it. Eat your fish from the floating restaurant, book your behind-the-scene adventure with the animals, kids play area, and lots of entertainment from Spice Diner and more. Enjoy an early Christmas with Entebbe Fish Festival on December 15th, 2019 at Uwek Long Beach at 10,000 shillings only. Organized by Perfect Events and Uwek.
Enjoy happier holidays with DSTV and get the best entertainment for only 149,000 shillings.
Quataka Mini for just Lukumi. Yes, grab a nice cold Coke, Fanta, Sprite, Stony or Novidaka Mini now for only 1,000 shillings. Enjoy great taste at a great price with Coca-Cola.
Taste the feeling.
Turning on your world.
The Timeline is brought to you by
Everywhere You Go. OTV, live it, love it.
You might know her from her hilarious clips on social media, or you might know her as the female host of NTV The Bits. Well, today she is sharing her story on this episode of The Timeline. What a follow.
The videos I make started off more as a joke, more as something I do for fun, just to pass time and to entertain my little sisters. And then it went a little more than I thought it would actually go.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I would like to apologize, and I would like to say that, Mr. Speaker, On that particular day, I did not slap Honorable Jaguar. It is his cheeks that moved towards my hand.
The power of social media is actually really, really big. People kept sharing from friend to friend to friend to people that I had never heard of. So that's when I realized it wasn't just for me anymore. It was now out there, and I had to keep up and keep people happy. One of my favorites would have been the one I did of John Black's song, because by then people hadn't heard it yet. I just found the lyrics somewhat entertaining to me, because he kept asking, where are you, I want to bring something. It was funny to me, and I did it, and next thing I know, John Black himself is reposting it. I don't know how he got to see it, but I liked it. I found it fun, mostly because I was enjoying myself while I did it, and I liked the fact that it was appreciated by the artist himself. I did a couple of Bad Black, and I was almost 100% sure I was going to get a backlash. Thank God that didn't happen, but she's been known to be a bit feisty and everything, and hit back at everyone who does anything somewhat mimicking her or including her name or something. So I was a bit skeptic sharing that, but it turned out good. Of recent, I posted a video of someone singing the national anthem wrong. And someone assumed I was making a mockery of the national anthem, yet I wasn't. I was actually just trying to show people that, there are people out there who really do not know how to sing the national anthem, because it's real. It's a reality, and these are things that we don't pay attention to. And the whole point of what I do is to try to bring notice to the things that are actually going on in our neighborhood, in our country.
For Uganda, me good policy, where to China, United States for free, but together we all rest.
I feel like social media plays a very big part, not just in my career, but also personal growth. Social media is something that we shouldn't look down on. You can make money off social media, and I used to think it was a myth until I actually started making money off social media. Being a person on television, it helps with branding. It helps basically put you out there. All the content that we get now is off social media, and we give it back to social media because the people get to feel like they're part of your life through it. So I cannot just be on television and I have no social media presence whatsoever, because at the end of the day, your fans out there feel like they want to have a connection with you, and they can only get that through social media. Hi people, I'm Linda Dane, and you guys can get to follow me on all my social media handles at Linda Dane, which is LYNDA_DDANE. That's on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, Kik, basically everywhere. I'll be there for you, and I love you all.
Who do you think we should have next on WhatsApp Follow? Share with us at the Timeline 256 on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Now the festive season is here, and you can catch all the action from Serie A, La Liga to the Premier League. That is courtesy of GoTV. So stay connected on GoTV Max at only 39,000 Uganda shillings and enjoy the festive season. Kati mwe ba nkubirako kali akasimu. Yes, dial star 160 star 21 hash and get yourself some MTN Supu and make calls across all networks and talk more, courtesy of MTN. From Uncle D on the Timeline till next episode, ciao adios.
That Timeline was brought to you by
Dial star 160 star 21 hash to load an MTN daily voice bundle and call any network.
Everywhere you go, MTN. Bring the family closer this festive season. Get GoTV with 1 month of GoTV Max and a GoTenna for only 89,000 shillings. GoTV. Live it. Love it.
This is NTV.
politics bamujje mu security eggwanga lyaffe ligenda kukola ki kufuna obuzibu nze omuntu wa wansi atuula wansi ku ttaka ssebo nze ngenda okuweerera omwana oyo ng'onzimbidde essomero lya kalina
nene gavumenti oba eri munkwe etubuzaabuza tekutula eryawo tulagero esayidi katale akati abantu ate koona abantu basalinga baddeno nga baddeno emotoka zibakoone awantu atwaka gavumenti etekawo sente wetulaba ambulensi zetuzibira omuntu n'awulira akagombe ka ambulensi ng'ereeta mulwadde n'alemera mu kkubo.
NTV Akawungeezi era ennaku z'omwezi linnya omwezi gwa 12 omwaka 2019 olwaleero lwakedde ku makyanga luzibu nnyo eri abakozi abakeera okujja okukola mu kibuga. Mangi gotasaanye kusubwa ageekuusa ku nsonga eyo n'okutambula okw'okulwanyisa okulya enguzi. Ogenda kulaba ebikirako ebyo katusooke tulabe emitwe emikulu.
Recruit people there on the basis of paper qualifications.
Olutalo ku nguzi lulangiriddwa. Pulezidenti ekizibu akitadde kubagabira abalyako emirimu nga batenda empapula ennyingi.
We are going right back to practice the same damn corruption that we claim to fight.
Mulekerawo obunnanfuusi. Omumyuka wa sipiika atabukidde abakungu ba gavumenti abalwanyisa enguzi emisana ate ne bagirya ekiro.
Akyusa management situlemesa bye tukola.
Enguzi twagikoowa naye nedda. Bannakampala si basanyufu olw'engeri gye bataataaganyiziddwamu nga pulezidenti atambula. Besigye ne Nambooze tebaganyiza kwetaba mu kutambula so nga abalala embalala bakwatiddwa.